Hello everyone and welcome to the Gunpla Network. I'm the Spicer and today's review of the 1/1000 scale Space Battleship Yamato is brought to you by none other than Canadian Gundam. Canadian Gundam is your one-stop shop for all things plamo and Gunpla here in North America. When checking out their vast catalog and placing your next order, don't forget to use the promo code Gunpla Network to save yourself 10% off. It's undeniable that the Space Battleship Yamato is an iconic design in the world of sci-fi spaceships, but does this 1/1000 scale model kit stand up to the legend? Well, no, it's a ship, it doesn't have legs. How can it stand up to anything? All terrible dad jokes aside, visually speaking, this kit is a joy to look at. Not only is it covered in a ton of surface detailing, but the classic battleship design mixed with some sci-fi tech leaves the ship standing out among anything else in your collection. Well, I did all the panel lining with a panel lining marker and it is very tedious. A nice wash would probably be way easier and add a little bit of extra light weathering here and there. If you decide to skip panel lining, some of the detail will still stand out, but not nearly as much. So if you do like this look, you'll probably want to do a wash or panel line it. In terms of color accuracy, it's pretty spot on with pretty much everything being in plastic, no real need for color correcting stickers save a few very minor things. I had mentioned thinking about painting this bad boy up, but honestly I'm kind of having a hard time thinking of anything I would do outside of like little details like choosing a slightly more wooden color for the deck and maybe touching up some of the guns and things of that nature. It is pretty much screen accurate for what you would want. Now of course if you want to make changes, feel free to go ahead. But if you don't like to paint, then this is right up your alley. I may still decide to do some of those detail painting things, I don't know yet. Let me know in the comments down below if you'd like to see that and what you would like to see. Not saying I'll do it by any means, but if I do decide to go through with it, at least I'll have a few ideas. There are a few seam lines and nubs that stand out, but honestly the ship's hull is pretty solidly just like 4 or 5 pieces, so there's not a lot of things to go wrong here. I will say that there is a fairly large seam line towards the kind of back portion of the ship where the back engine portion connects to the main hull. It is a little too big in some instances if you haven't pushed it all the way together to play off as kind of just an extra panel line, but when it is fit flush, it comes off that way, so that's not too big of a problem. The main notorious seam is going to come from the bottom part that hides the LED unit for the back. The LED unit almost rests on it. It is in just a friction plastic holding thing in there, and it is somewhat heavy for that, so it does sometimes come down a little bit, and if it's not in there all the way, the bottom portion won't pop in all the way, and even when it is, sometimes it doesn't like to fit. So that's probably the trickiest part of it, but these are fairly minor things in the overall view of the ship. I will say that there are a couple of nub marks, most notably on the little rails for the ships for the Cosmo Zeros on the back end of the ship. However, they are on the top, so unless you're looking down at it, you're really not going to see them. And a little bit of paint would go a long way on those anyway, because they're just all solid gray. Totally up to you, but that's really the biggest problem I have with nubs. Now, outside of that, I will say that well, the LEDs are cool, and you do get 2 of them, you don't have the last one. So, the LEDs are cool that they have them, but they don't come with batteries. Not a huge problem. The batteries aren't super expensive, but something else to get. You do get the front one for the LED wave motion gun, or 1 LED for the wave motion gun, and 1 that goes under the superstructure for the bridges, but the problem with that one is that it doesn't pipe the light very well, so even if you do have a strong consistent light coming out of it, which some of the Bandai LEDs don't like to do because the little switches for the on and off don't work super well sometimes, you'll have that issue. Now, it is weird that they provide those 2 and don't provide the one for the back, or anything for the back. I don't know why they do this, and it adds about another $20 to $25 to maybe $30, depending on where you are in the States, to this kit, which is already somewhat expensive. The Yamato stuff is really cool, and some of the concepts are cool in terms of execution. However, just feels weird to not include that or just redesign it to where you can include 3 of those cheap LEDs and just be done with it. I'm not really sure what Bandai was thinking there, going kind of halfway, but regardless, it's nice that they at least included 2 of the LEDs. Now, I will say that I have ordered some magnetic activated LEDs for the bridge and the wave motion gun because I am sick of taking the top of this off. The front turret, for whatever reason, likes to pop off. I've tried a little bit of glue, and it just does not want to stay. It pops back in, it doesn't break, it's just a weird thing that none of the other turrets do. But yeah, I'm just really scared I'm going to break something every time I do it, so I've got those ordered and I'm just going to deal with them when they get here. Unfortunately, the big brick portion on the bottom doesn't have that option. You do kind of have to go that route just because the way the light piping and the wiring is designed, you have to go with that brick. So you either don't get the engine LEDs or you're going to end up paying $20 to $30 for it, not counting the batteries you have for that. The smaller LR41 batteries, pretty easy to find. You can find them on Amazon, but it may be a question of whether the LED on and off switch is finicky or the batteries I got were finicky because I just got them off Amazon. It's hard to say, but they are a little finicky, mostly seeming to do with the switch. So if you've had problems with these Bandai LEDs in the past, keep that in mind. But otherwise, they work fine. I just don't want to keep taking the top of the ship off. I'm just going to break one of those AA guns. I can feel it in my bones. Anyway, it is nice that they're there. You do get the option to use either clear or clear orange plastic. I used the orange for the back, so you get a nice yellow or direct, very concentrated orange hue, depending on which one you're looking at. And I used clear for the front section and the bridge. They look good. I don't know why you would use orange in front, but you have the option if you decide to. I will say a weird thing is that the very top, the Admiral's Ready Room or the Captain's Ready Room, is clear plastic, but it doesn't have light piped to it. Or if it does, it's not done well. And from what I can remember of building this, the engineering there doesn't really facilitate light to pass through. So I don't really know what I would have wanted there otherwise, but I just feel like having the clear piece right above clear pieces that light up, but it doesn't light up, is a little weird. More of a nitpick and just something I observed, but just kind of be aware of that. You might be able to drill like a very small hole to get some light piped in there, but I really don't know if that's a thing that's going to work. So you may just have to end up painting it or just leave it as is and not really be too bothered by it. In regards to articulation and posing, there's not a lot to say since it's a ship though. You do get the swivel on the main 3 and 2 auxiliary turrets, so that's pretty cool. Each barrel of all 5 of those turrets does move up and down independently, so you do get the option to kind of have some more dynamic turret angling and stuff, but do be aware that the turrets, for the big turrets at least, the barrels are clamped over a bar on the turret, so if you do move too far up, it will pop off. They go back on very easily, so no need to concern yourself there. The smaller turrets, they are just clipped onto a bar, so they move much more freely, but they're very small and a little bit more delicate, so kind of keep that in mind. Now, in terms of other non-kind of somewhat articulated type things, you do get 2 atmospheric wing units, which just pop into the side, and honestly, I like these much better. I do like the really sleek, slender, rounded nature of the ship hull design, but I do think the wings give it a little bit more of a sci-fi feel, and I'm going to display it that way in my collection. They're pretty easy to change out. You just pop the old ones out, pop the new ones in, and then when you want to change them back out, you just pull the wings out and pop the flush pieces back in there. It's pretty easy to do. Now, you do also technically have the 2 little swiveling catapults for the Cosmo Zeros on the back. Those are there, they're cool. You can kind of move them, but they really aren't going to sell a lot of motion, so it's nice that they're there, it's nice that they move, but I don't know that anyone's really going to look at them and be like, whoa, that's the craziest thing ever. You do also get 4 tiny Cosmo Tiger 2s, And I am terrible at painting minis, so I have not painted them because they are very, very, very small. It's cool, but just not something, like, I'm glad they included it, it's just, they're not a big selling point for me, honestly. Now, technically, the last thing you get in this particular version, the 2202 version, is the Yukonai, the ship that Kodai captains at the start of 2202. It's a much more traditional UN Cosmo Navy ship design. It's nothing like the Yamato. It's much smaller. It is in scale. And it's much closer in line to the regular Mecha Collection smaller ships, so there's a fair amount of painting and stuff you'll have to do to get it accurate. But it's cool that it comes with it. It's a nice little extra ship that, you know, you're looking $10 to $20 depending on where you're finding it, and it does add a little bit more value into this ship, which is a pretty cool deal. You do get some stickers to go with either. I haven't put the decals on either, though, because if I do decide to paint them, I would like to add the decals after the fact. So, while you do get those, they're not there. These are just the ships as plain out of the box as possible. Now, I will personally credit this kit, or I guess technically these kits, since you get two of them, two ships, the Yamato and the Yukonai, with doing two things for me personally. One, it helps refresh my desire to build Gunpla, in particular, just for me. Not doing reviews or anything, but just to have fun again. I haven't really been burnt out on building kits necessarily, I just haven't had the time to do that. And yeah, I'm kind of thinking, you know, maybe I'll stop doing one or two other things to build a kit here and there. Because I've got a couple things in the backlog that I really like to get to, and I just haven't messed with them in at least 2022, but maybe slightly longer than that. maybe 2021 as well. But yeah, I mean, it just kind of reinvigorated me. It's different. It's like, oh, yeah, there's some cool stuff going on here, but I kind of miss Gunpla now. Like, it's not that different by any means, and it is much more straightforward in terms of a build, but it does kind of make you appreciate how much engineering and crazy stuff goes into Gunpla and everything like that. Now, the second thing, which I haven't done yet, but it has got me looking at purchasing and starting naval models. While this was not really challenging as from like an engineering standpoint, like a master grade or a real grade, gluing all those stupid tiny AA guns together was very different for me. And it wasn't as irritating as I thought it was going to be. It was actually kind of, I wouldn't say cool, but it was nice to see them all come together. Being kind of bunched up that way, it does give it a very unique look. And I was like, oh, okay, maybe I could build some ships. So I don't know, maybe I will. It has pushed me kind of in that direction, and maybe I'll actually pull the trigger. I've got a couple that I'm looking for, so maybe we'll go down that rabbit hole at some point. Well, I've not tried any of these models. I've tried one Tamiya airplane model that I only got like halfway through. So I'm very new to the world of military models. If anyone out there does do that, let me know in the comments down below. Do you have any recommendations or things to consider before trying something, or any certain brands I should stay away from? And, you know, if you kind of want to see that journey, maybe I'll post an update at some point if I do decide to go that route. But neither here nor there, just something that was kind of cool that happened because of this ship. Overall, not only is this kit refreshing and fun, it's taken place on top of my monitor because I can't stop looking at it. It stands out so much from my shelves of Gunpla and airplanes and action figures and just everything up there. And it's just cool looking. I mean, I'm looking up at it right now as I'm saying this, and it's just so unique and so different looking. And I mean, I know I'm using the same words here, but that is really what it is. Regardless of whether you are into military modeling and you build ships, or you're just into Gunpla, or into sci-fi ships if you're like going Star Trek with Eagle Moss or anything like that, this is going to stand out against them. With the mix of naval design and sci-fi stuff, it doesn't really fit in either one, and it will stand out against either one, which is a really cool blend of things to have for a model that is fairly large and can be kind of the center of a display piece. Now, if you are looking for a more challenging build, I would say unless gluing things and having small parts is challenging for you and you want to try that, then maybe this isn't for you. But if you want something different, if you just want to take a break from Gunpla and try something different to maybe give you a different perspective on model kits, or maybe you're trying to go the other way, maybe you're going from naval models into Gunpla and this serves as a great transition, or maybe the other way around. Being a Bandai kit, most of it's snap fit, you don't have to glue a whole lot. It's really straightforward, and outside of panel lining, you really don't have to do too much for most of the kit. It's very straightforward, and it's kind of a nice, simple, fun build. The box is very large, but this is a fairly large kit in and of itself, so kind of keep that in mind. Overall, I would say, if you're looking for those, this is a must-buy. This is something to try, at the very least. I mean, this is something I would have never really had thought about, and having built it now, I'm actually kind of actively looking for some of these other Star Blazers or Battleship Yamato kits, so it has done a lot for me, but if you're not a ship person, then this is probably a pass for you. But anyone else, if you at least have a vague inkling of liking spaceships, this is well within your wheelhouse to try. Of course, if you have any questions, drop them down below. I'll do my best to answer them. And as always, friends, I've been the Spicer here for the Gunpla Network. Please stay safe and keep on building.